Then you move back. You move back to New York, and now you start kind of bringing it back together. I'd go for these long runs at night because I couldn't sleep. Your girl lived down by the Twin Towers, and I'd run from there to Central Park and back. On the way, I'd stop by Coney Island High on St. Mark's Place to see who was hanging out for a few minutes, say hi, then keep running uptown to the top of the park. I'd run a few laps around the reservoir, and then turn around and head back down. On the way back down, I'd stop at Coney Island High again, and there would be the same people. Everyone was pretty much in the same place, just slightly more shit-faced, and I'd hang for a few more minutes and then keep running. It was kind of good to see that as I was getting my shit together, to see all these people not really doing anything but standing around getting fucked up as they got older and did nothing with themselves. It gave me motivation to keep my shit together. So,
yeah, that's when I started pulling myself back up, you know.
And one of the things that helped out with that, first of all, you guys got Def Jam. You guys got signed to Def Jam. Is that right?
We had a...
they gave you an advance or something?
Yeah, we got an advance to record something for them, and then the deal wound up falling apart, so we wound up being left with the recordings in our possession that we were able to then put out ourselves.
What album was that?
Revenge.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was actually a really good album, but, you know, it is what it is. Shit never managed to stay together. That band just had fucked up karma.
And around this time, you started your jiu-jitsu career.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's, you know, I've said it many times, man. Renzo really fucking saved my life in a lot of ways because, you know, even though I was doing those, you know, 12-mile runs and shit like that. I mean, I worked my way up to really doing long ones. I started off doing like 3-4 miles. I got into it. But I would still have my moments of just like depression and and I'd want to get fucked up and stuff. But I had jiu-jitsu. And I was living in my rehearsal studio. I didn't even have a fucking shower. I was like bathing on the roof with... filling up 2-gallon buckets. I'd go up there with like 4 or 5 buckets and just like bathe. I was living in the rehearsal studio. I wasn't, you know, life was not great, but every day I'd go and I'd train. And that gave me a place to find myself again, you know.
When was this? What year?
It was like January, February of '96.
Okay.
Like when I came back, I discovered MMA from UFC 1 and 2 when I was out on the West Coast. And I'm like, what the fuck did he just do to him? Like, I've probably, you know, hit 1,000 people in the face. I've kicked 1,000 people in the head and headbutted and bit and whatever. But I ain't never seen a triangle choke. The fuck is an armbar? You know, and I made up my mind. This is when I was still on Smack. I was like, I made up my mind. I was like, yo, if I ever get the chance to learn that shit, I'm going to fucking learn that shit. So when I came back to New York, I just kept going through like Black Belt magazine, Kung Fu magazine. I'm like, one of these motherfuckers got to move out here sooner or later. This is New York. I mean, they can't all stay in California. The fucking Gracies are like a very big family. One of them's going to have to move out here. So Renzo moved. I found an ad, Renzo Kukuk, Gracie Kukuk, it said. Gracie Kukuk, he was still with his old partner. And yeah, man, I went down and I met Renzo, and that changed my life. I mean, that was 21 years ago, you know. Yeah.
And a lot of people they think, I don't know why they think it, but they think jiu-jitsu is going to be, you know, kind of, when you walk in, it's going to be intimidating. And it, you know, I could tell from the way you wrote about it, Renzo's just like, hey, what's up, bro? You know?
Renzo's the fucking man. Yeah. No, he just makes you feel so welcome and so at home.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, I can say this and mean it. You know, I really love that man. You know, he was there for me through some of the toughest parts of my life, and he didn't give up on me, and he believed in me. And sometimes really that's all you need, is somebody to believe in you and to not give up on you. And you know, when I got arrested in 2012 and I was all over the papers and the news and everywhere, you know, a lot of people were shying away from me, let's just say that. For those of you who don't know, I got jumped by about 5 or 6 guys. And I wound up biting a nice chunk out of one of their faces and slicing a couple of them and poking one of them. In the process of me getting jumped, I got 40 stitches. I was stabbed. And, you know, a lot of people were like, you know, I can't believe he did that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, did what? You know, got jumped. You know, I got fucking jumped, man. And fucking tell me about slicing, cutting, stabbing. And fucking tell me shit about shit until you got 5, 6 motherfuckers trying to take your fucking life. You know, then you could start talking about how could you this, how could you that? Fuck you. You know, you got 5 dudes kicking you in your face, stomping on you. You had better be willing to stab, bite, or rip someone's balls off. You know, and that's what people don't fucking understand who have never experienced real violence or real potential of death. You know, when I first got into jiu-jitsu, it was all about the fighting. You know, I was like, oh yeah, I'll learn more ways to fuck people up. Yeah. Now I really, it has nothing to do with fighting for me anymore. I mean, I just love the art. I love the relationships that I've made through the art. I love sharing what I've learned. If anything, I'm, again, you know, the fight or flight, man. I'm way more likely to run than fight at this point because I know how bad things can go.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, I might have told this story before. There was a badass Marine, and his name was DA. That's what everyone called him. And DA in the military, DA is short for direct action, but that was his initials too. But it just worked. And he looked like a superhero. He was a total stud, and he was a gangbanger from Texas. But you know, he joined. He would be like you, right? But he joined. But he was a black kid. But he joined the Marine Corps, and he was in Force Recon. He was a total badass. And I said, hey man, you got to come and try jiu-jitsu out. And so he started training, and like after like 6 months, he came up to me, and I was like, hey man, you know, because I was like still deploying, and so I wouldn't see him a lot. And I was like, hey, man, how you like jiu-jitsu? He was like, man, it's kind of fucked up. And I said, what do you mean, bro? It's awesome. He goes, no, man, because I used to feel like a real badass. Now everybody I see, I'm thinking I might be a pussy. So
yeah, man, it's funny.
It's very humbling, you know. It's a very humbling game to play.
It really is. But you know, at the same time, though, to me, it is that though. It is a game for me. It's like when I think of fighting or when I think of self-defense, I believe in jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm 100% a believer, but jiu-jitsu is fun for me. It's not about violence or self-defense or fighting.
Yeah,
you know, because fighting and violence to me is about ending something. It's ending somebody, you know. I mean, because I know I could die. I tell people all the fucking time, I'm like, you know, you don't got to worry about like a black belt kicking your ass, because he's a black belt. He's already matured past the need to kick your ass. You got to worry about that 90-pound motherfucker who will stab you without you even having a chance to say, dude, we don't need to have a problem.
Right.
You know, you got to worry about that dude who's just so don't give a fuck that before you even have a chance to say, buddy, your shirt's wet. And you're like, oh, shit. You know?
Yeah.
And
we've talked about that on here. You know, people say like, "Oh, I was gonna get this guy said something to my wife. What should I have done?" I'm like, just grab your wife, go home, and buy her, you know, a nice dinner.
And say, "Honey, I love you."
Yeah, you know, it's not worth getting stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, it's not worth having to stab that junkie in the neck either. And I just know from my own experience that there's always the potential that it could go to that extreme. I don't think for 1 second, because I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, that like I'm just gonna submit this guy and hold him down until the police get here. Because you know what, that guy may have 2 other friends standing in the shadows behind you, or that guy may fucking start stabbing you when you're looking to you're trying to, you know, submit him. And all of a sudden you're like, why is my t-shirt wet? Well, you know, why is my pants wet? Oh my God, that's fucking red. You know, I mean, that's just life, you know. That's why, you know,